We've talked about the Trump presidency as the sort of Fox News presidency. Trump watches Fox News in the morning, Fox and Friends. His first tweets of the day are often based on what was covered on Fox and Friends that morning. We also know that Trump shares an advisor with Sean Hannity in attorney Michael Cohen. Whether or not Cohen was ever officially representing Sean Hannity in a legal capacity, we don't really know. But we know that Cohen and Hannity are in touch and that Hannity has obtained advice from Cohen. So a lot of connections between Trump and Fox News. And there's now a new report from New York Magazine, which points out that on many nights of the week, Trump and Hannity are having, oddly enough, bedtime phone calls. Trump is effectively being put to bed by Fox News propagandist Sean Hannity. And Hannity is reportedly on a list of cleared friends and family at the White House switchboard. He gets right through to Donald Trump when he calls. And Trump's routine is increasingly becoming clear on a day-to-day basis. In the morning, Trump will watch Fox News and tweet on the basis of what it is he sees on TV. He watches Fox and Friends. In the evenings, he talks to Sean Hannity. And I was thinking as I read this very interesting article in New York Magazine, could the contrast be starker to President Obama, who would read as much as possible? He would read fiction and nonfiction on his own, and he would read just copious political documents in the mornings and throughout the day. And there could be no more antithetical behavior to that of Barack Obama when it comes to reading than what we're seeing from Trump. And what New York Magazine also points out is that the morning Fox and Friends routine is not just Trump's doing. Clearly, Trump likes watching Fox and Friends, but apparently when Sean Spicer and Reince Priebus were still press secretary and chief of staff, respectively, they noticed that when Trump would get up and watch Morning Joe, for example, or other channels, those had some less than glowing reports about Trump, and Trump would get so agitated that it would throw off his entire day. So what Priebus and Spicer decided, in a sense it's brilliant, was get Trump to watch Fox and Friends in the morning because it keeps him more calm and stable because they mostly just talk about how great Trump is. This is like managing a little kid, right? It's like he's got the two times a day propaganda file to placate him. He's deliberately been transitioned by staff off of Morning Joe over to Fox and Friends. It's like dealing with either a kid or a developmentally delayed adult.
Yeah, at the beginning of his presidency, it wasn't great that he was only watching cable news.
Right.
Wasn't really reading articles or getting those presidential daily briefings.
Sure.
But at least he was getting somewhat of a diversity of opinions. Like, you had people in the center, you had people on the left who would criticize him, and then you had Fox News.
Sure.
Now it's just Fox News.
It's exclusive. And the Fox News diet obviously has its own problems, and current officials are admitting, like, here's the problem. Fox News sometimes exaggerates, shocking, and they also leave out major stories. If it's a story that at its base isn't a good story for Trump to be, for the Trumpists, Fox News will often just not cover it. So Trump becomes fixated because of his Fox News diet on small, insignificant stories that Fox News focuses on and is completely in the dark about actual major stories that are relevant in the grand scheme of things. So it's very, very disturbing what's going on with Trump's media diet. But to get back to the Hannity phone calls for a second, Hannity's role is a little different than Fox and Friends. Hannity's calls with Trump often leave Trump feeling like he's just making the right decision about everything, right? Hannity pumps him up to think he's accomplished amazing things. Trump will come away from these phone calls with Hannity with new ideas for executive orders he wants to put through. And a former White House official calls the Hannity phone calls an effed up feedback loop that really messes with Trump's head. So the big picture is Hannity and Fox and Friends are running our country. Fox News Corporation President Rupert Murdoch reportedly also on that list of people who can get right through at the White House switchboard to Donald Trump. And there's really just no comparison to what's happening at the White House. And I was just thinking, George W. Bush is really benefiting from Donald Trump being president, and the Washington Post put out an article to that extent. And it is stunning. I mean, George W. Bush was a terrible president, right? He made some of the worst political decisions in a long time, disastrous economy, went to war under false pretenses, led to thousands, tens of thousands of civilian and military deaths. And the approval rating retrospectively for George W. Bush is way up because the contrast to Donald Trump makes people say, hey, Bush wasn't really that bad. And that's dangerous, number one, because I've talked before about the last thing we want to do is get fooled into seeing the disastrous neocon Bush doctrine of the Project for a New American Century as anything short of horrifying. But it's true that compared to what we're seeing, I mean, Bush at least read books, right? They weren't the books I might have chosen necessarily, but the guy was at least reading. So this is really, really scary stuff. And by the way, yet another link between the Trump administration and Julian Assange. Remember that Julian Assange was in touch with Donald Trump Jr. during the campaign, who, of course, is directly linked to Donald Trump. Julian Assange was also in touch with Sean Hannity during the campaign, which is yet another way in which it's completely plausible that the Trump administration was in touch with Assange and WikiLeaks.
It's another mutual point of contact for them, just like Michael Cohen is.
Yeah.
And one more thing on Hannity. I mean, when Hannity's done, when his show's over at 10 o'clock p.m., do you really want to watch Laura Ingraham, or do you want to get the bonus Hannity? And I think that's what Trump is opting to do.
Yeah. Where do we know what Trump thinks about Laura Ingraham? I don't know. Is that something
I don't think he has an
on?
opinion on Laura Ingraham.
He hasn't taken a position. Yeah. That show is unwatchable, by the way, and hopefully it'll be off the air soon. The video you just watched was made possible by support from you. Please go to patreon.com/David Pakman Show. You can make a pledge of as little as $1 per month, and every dollar helps to support the work that we're doing, particularly in light of the YouTube ad boycott, which has been really bad.